You are now tuned into First and Locks with Rico's Locks and BK Picks. Here's your host, Rico's Locks.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the First and Locks podcast with your host, Rico Locks here. Who we got over here? My boy, BK. How you doing today?
What's going on, BK Picks? How we doing, everybody? How we doing?
Good to be here, man. It's college football is coming upon us, man. 22 days away from the first day. I can't wait, man. I've been waiting months for this. I don't know about you, BK, but
I'm always waiting for football season.
I've been itching for months for this, man.
Heck yeah.
First podcast I've ever done, so I appreciate all y'all staying or being with me. Let's get to it. Start off. I've never done this before, so bear with me. So how I started this is I've been doing college sports for a while. Been watching them for a long time, ever since I was a kid. And growing up, I always wanted to do something with sports, whether it was playing them, watching them, talking about them. And just so happens I'm talking about them now. So now we're here, and I couldn't be happier to be here doing a podcast with BK. And we're about to hopefully make y'all some money this year. That's the goal with this whole podcast. So BK, I'll let you more for yourself.
Yeah, man. This is my second podcast. Did a basketball podcast for Clemson in the fall. That was a great time. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to doing this with a longtime friend. Known each other, 12 years now? 12 years now? Something like that. High school days for sure. Known him a long time. One of my favorite people to talk sports with. So definitely great to be able to finally put something like this together.
Let's talk about the conference changes, man. Talk about how depleted the Pac-12 got. Let's talk about Big Ten just completely changed. Let's talk about how the ACC completely changed.
Yeah.
Get into it. So for the Pac-12, there's only two teams in it now.
It's basically the Mountain West, man. Like, I don't know why they just wouldn't have merged with the Mountain West. It would have made perfect sense for them just to be like, okay, well, we're just going to be a secondary conference. A lot of people believe more or less that that the Mountain West should have converted to them, being that the Pac-12's history and things of that nature. But even still, man, I'm just like,
now they got a two-team conference. What is it, Washington State and Oregon State?
You're guaranteed to play for a national title. I mean,
ridiculous. I mean, and then they got the ACC. They got freaking Cal.
Yep.
Playing on the Pacific Coast in an ACC called the Atlantic Coast Conference. I just don't understand. Some of the geographic metrics of it make no sense. There's going to be
Stanford too.
Right, Stanford too. Like, the games are going to be kind of hard to handicap when teams like Miami go to the West Coast and have to play. It's going to be a different time change. It's going to be a lot different for those teams. So it's going to be interesting to see those kind of angles this year.
One thing I wanted to know, especially when you were just talking about, teams like Florida teams like Miami, Florida State having to go all the way to Cal or Stanford. I want to know what times those games are going to be. Are they going to be at 10 o'clock? Are they going to be at 8 o'clock kickoff, 1 o'clock kickoff? Because if you're kicking off at 1 o'clock and you're in freaking Cal, you're kicking off at 11 in the morning. Like,
right.
So
regardless, I feel like they're going to need to have a few days to adjust up there. Games, it's going to be tough, I think. So those are going to be interesting to see. What do you think about Ohio State and Oregon at the top of the Big Ten talks now?
I believe it's going to be Oregon.
Ohio State's up there, but Oregon up there now.
Yeah, I'm sticking to my guns with what I've said for pretty much the whole entire offseason. I'm pretty confident in the fact that I believe Oregon's going to win the Big Ten. They're returning a crap ton of players. They added some great guys like Evan Stewart on the outside, Dylan Gabriel, of course. Everybody and their mother knows he's there now. I don't know, man.
By the way,
Heisman favorite, by the way. I don't know, man. I just feel like more or less that Oregon's a very complete team, especially on the defensive side of the football. And we all know what Ryan Day's biggest weakness is he can't get off third base. So
I agree there, but Oregon, I don't know about their running back room this year. It looks good still, but that's the only question mark I have on the offensive side of the ball. They have a great offensive line, great best wide receivers rated in the country.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got Dylan Gabriel. I still have questions on defense too, but as far as that, I still think that as far as value, I do think they're the pick to win the Big Ten. I can't take Ohio State with all the hype, man.
I'm gonna tell you right now, defensive line on Oregon State is going to be something to deal with.
I mean Oregon, but yes.
Excuse me, Oregon. Yes, the Oregon Ducks. Yeah, their defensive line is going to be absolutely absurd. You're going to have Ui Angalale is going to set up on the outside, which is DJ's younger brother. They're pretty upper class heavy when it comes to the D line as well. Their corners, in my opinion, they're probably their weakest point. They're going to need a lot of younger guys to step up, which is not obscure in college football anymore, especially. I can't tell you how many times Clemson runs out of a freshman or a sophomore, underclassmen in general nowadays. But
right, especially with the portal and everything going on now, man. Yeah. Football in general, especially at the college level, is just completely changed. Like Mac Brown said, the coach with the team that I'm wearing right now. So, yeah, the whole game is just completely changed, man. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what those two teams do at the top of the conference because you know they're going to be the top two teams this year. At least that's what everyone's saying and what the big boards are projecting.
What week do they play?
What, week
6?
I think it's 6 or let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Week 7, October
7.
October 12th. They go to Oregon.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be a loss for Ohio State, but we'll see.
I mean, Oregon won last time they were in Columbus.
But another interesting point about this is Chip Kelly is now the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. Former Oregon coach. It's crazy. It's gonna be a crazy storyline, crazy narrative to go by with that. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Moving on, BK. Let's go to some over-unders for the season that we think that are gonna be interesting. You can go ahead first with yours since you're wearing the team. Who else is gonna talk?
You know me. I'm gonna have to be the one guy that's got to bet on their own team, right? And even though you're not supposed to do that too often, it's bad juju. But even beside the point, I still think one of the better over-unders that I saw value-wise is to actually buy up for Clemson and give them 9.5. I don't see a world where we only win 9 games. The conference is depleted. I think more or less that it's going to be Florida State, Clemson pretty much towards the end. And it's considerable that, of course, an NC State, a Miami, teams of that nature and such are going to be within the mix, of course. But I just don't see a world where Clemson and FSU don't play for the ACC title. I know I said this last year. We had some growing pains with Cade, injuries, wide receiver, O-line being abysmal. But I would like to think Matt Luke, who was hired as the offensive line coach, and the stability now that we have a wide receiver with some younger guys like TJ Moore coming in, who I believe is, in my opinion, going to be one of the better favorites.
But guys do not use the portal. Why is that? Why does Dabo not use the portal? Why is he the only coach in college football? He's like, you know what? I'm sticking with our guys. I'm not using the portal.
You know me, man. I love Dabo Swinney. And I'll never sit there and not give the man the credit he deserves. He's earned everything that he's given for Flowers wise, but he is stubborn as a mule. He wants it his way, and he wants it his way alone. And I mean, you can't discredit the guy for saying it that way. Like if in his mind he wants to only bring guys in that he thinks are bought into Clemson, which must be only guys out of high school, rather than the 2 players we've gotten in the portal that were graduate transfer quarterbacks that were never going to play. So I get why people have gripe with the fact that he's not using the portal whatsoever. But in the same extent, I understand it, especially in today's time when you're dealing with NIL, you're dealing with, like you said, huge transfer portal numbers in general. Guys just fleeting to it after one season with one team. It's imperative for Dabo, at least, that he's going to sit there and make sure he's going to bring guys in that are going to buy into Clemson and stay at Clemson. I respect it. Has it worked? you could say no, because I mean, at the end of the day, we've had back-to-back 10-win seasons, and last year having a 9-win season. So it's
They're
not.
they're underperforming for your normal standards that you're used to lately. So that's why your fans are upset. And
Precisely.
using the portal gives them that excuse, that you're not using the portal, so the players aren't as good.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying though. Like, I feel like this year is a telling year for Clemson. Is what I was gonna say. As far as the portal, like, yes, I feel like you got to adapt and adjust with the game. So that part I don't understand, but I do understand that he wants to keep guys around longer, build longevity, have guys stick around, and that's what he's done. So maybe this year it pays off with all the players that have stuck around, which is gonna, like I said, it's gonna pay dividends when the season goes by. So we'll see how that goes.
I will say this much before we move on right quick.
I do love 8.5 wins though. I wrote that down, -170. I know that's usually too much juice that I like to pay for, but
I got him 9.5 plus 140. Because I don't see a world where we don't win 10 games. If you look at our schedule, it's going to be dang near impossible. But one thing I did want to note, it's a guy I've mentioned multiple times to you, multiple times to other people. I believe TJ Moore is going to be the ACC Freshman of the Year, wide receiver out of Tampa, Florida. He is going to be a dog. He is a burner. He's a track star. He's broken multiple records out of the state of Florida within track. Watch out for his name. You'll know it pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've heard of him. He is good. It's all up to Cade Klubnik. Can he get him the ball? And is that going to move the ball? Is the question that we all want to have answers to. So
you know me, I'm not going to blame him. I can't blame him for last year with running backs fumbling the ball at the 1 yard line. You can't blame him for having upwards to 6 different O-linemen into a game. I mean, his wide receiver room was banged up. The kid did the best he could. It was his first year starting in major D1 college football.
With all this being said, folks, I am with BK here, and I'm sure he agrees with this. I think Clemson wins the ACC this year. Plus 390 on FanDuel. I like that bet. I'm going with Clemson to win the ACC. I think Florida State is the favorite, but I'm not seeing it, man. I know they want to come for revenge. They feel disrespected because they didn't make the playoff last year. I get all that. I just think a new system for a new quarterback, new coach, all that, it's going to be too much in one season. I think Clemson, they've established what they've established for the past few years. Yeah, they weren't the best. They weren't as good as they were supposed to be. But this year, I think they put it all together. And I think at plus 390, man, that's great value.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think DJ's, you know as well as I do, I have very big, long experience with DJ with 2 years at Clemson. A lot of Florida State fans are trying to hype him up to me, and I'm like, I know what the guy is. I've seen him. They tried to tell me he improved at Oregon State. That's rubbish. His numbers were the exact same that they were the year before at Clemson.
Also, completely different defenses he's playing against over there. Completely different scheme of offense. Everything was just different.
Yep. So,
like you said, Clemson knows him. So imagine they play each other. I know who I'm taking. So. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say with that one. I like Clemson plus 3 to win the ACC this year, and I'm a Carolina fan. I'll say that. So even though we ain't doing much, on to the next. Another value, or it's not really value, but another bet that I just don't see losing this year that I was looking at on FanDuel earlier. I like Liberty to win the Conference USA minus 195. Yeah, that's juicy, but I don't see a world where they lose this conference this year. Bringing back Salter. Bringing back their running back, their head coach is back as well. They went undefeated up until playing Oregon last year, and they got smoked in that bowl game. I just think, man, they want to make the playoff this year, and they're also a good bet for that on FanDuel as well. I think at plus 200 to make the playoff, I would consider that. They have one of the easiest schedules I've seen. It's a cakewalk. I don't see how they don't lose a game. The toughest game I think is at App State. So I like win that conference minus 155.
No,
juice, but that's just, it seems like free money to me. So I'm all over that.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying there. I think Liberty is going to pretty much be the sub-in favorite for the 12th spot in the playoff. As everybody knows, the highest ranked or the highest touted non-G or non-Power 5 team is going to be making the playoffs this year. And for anybody's bang of their buck, it's going to probably be Liberty. It's going to be really hard not to be Liberty. I'll say that much, because when you look at it in the wide spectrum, your teams that are usually really, really good that are non-G5 teams, I mean, you're talking Coastal, they're not going to be that good this year. Tulane, they're not going to be that good this year. They lost everybody and their mother. They're the most of the time that the teams that constantly pump out, conference titles in your lower ranked conferences like the American, the Sun Belt, Conference USA, it's not the same average Joes as always. Liberty's really came on strong in the last couple of years. And I agree that I think they'll probably be the non-group of 5 team that will make it.
Yeah, so I just think those are 2 good bets right there with good value, man. Their head coach, very good head coach. I don't think he'll be at Liberty much longer after this year. Chadwell coming from Coastal Carolina previously led them to the, he basically brought up that program. He recruited Grayson McCall, who's now at NC State. I just think he's a great head coach. They got a great quarterback, great system there. I don't see how they lose that conference, man. Western Kentucky was the second betting favorite in that conference at plus 390. I just don't see it. They lost their quarterback and their best wide receiver as well at Western Kentucky, Malachi Corley.
Who's now a Jet, by the way.
Now a Jet. So, I just don't see it for Western Kentucky, man. So that's really, dude, you can – I'm going to put definitely probably at least 3-4 units on that myself. So y'all lock that in. Let's go over a few more that I was looking at. Like I said, I like Oregon to win the Big Ten at plus 200. I just think that they're the best team in that conference, man. Everyone's high on Ohio State, which I understand, but Will Howard's got to prove it, man. You know what you're going to get from Quinshon Judkins. He's going to be one of the best running backs in the country, and we'll get to that award that we're going to talk about here in a second. But I just think Oregon, man, plus 200. They are playing Ohio State at home in Eugene. I think that is going to be the turning point of the season right there. They win that game, they're going to be looking to do their thing and run the table, man.
I think either team is. Whoever wins that game, we're going to know.
Yeah.
But in the same extent with what you were talking about with Will Howard, he's got to show it. I mean, Will Howard was benched last year for Adrian Martinez. So, I know Ohio State fans are really excited about his ability to progress and, develop more, especially within an offense that has explosive weapons, like Ibuka. You're going to have
Anderson, Judkins, dude, their running back room is the best in the nation. It's ridiculous. So they're going to be hard to stop on offense, which is why I think it's going to lean so much on Will Howard. Can he make plays when needed? He's never been in this kind of moment with this kind of team. So we will see what he lives up to. Dylan Gabriel's been there, done that. He's been around for he's his 5th year now. So he's been there.
I would say this is 6.
6. Yeah.
I was about to say, I think this is his COVID year, and that's the only reason why he could come back, because then this is the last year of the COVID year. Yep. I want to say he's 25 years old.
Yeah, not our age. But that's what I like for the Big Ten. And I'll go over one more value. This is a sprinkle value bet right here, y'all. I like Oklahoma State to win the Big 12 at plus 800. Yeah, Oklahoma State. That's another team where they have a strong running back, Ollie Gordon, coming into the season rated the number 1 running back in the country. I just think if they go behind him, run the ball, man, that quarterback Bowman, he's not that bad.
No, not by any means.
What you're going to get with Van Gundy too. He's a good coach. He's going to fire the boys up. I think this year is a sneaky year for Oklahoma State. They're ranked in that 15 to 20 range right now. I think preseason, I just think they're a sneaky team at plus 800, man. Why not sprinkle a little $20-$30 on that plus 800? I like it. So
yeah, for sure.
About that.
For me, more or less, if I had to pick a team out of the Big 12 that I would like It's going to be Utah for me. I really do think that Cam Rising coming back is going to be extremely huge for them. I mean, the guy has been with Utah now. I think this is his sixth year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but more or less, a lot of the times when you're talking about leadership development, things of that nature, Utah does it extremely well with some of the lowest rated players in the country. You're talking 3 and 2 stars, a sprinkle of 4 here if they're lucky, and they just develop guys. I mean, I like their chances. Cam's one of those guys for me that I'm going to bring up in an award here as a straight dark horse. But
if he stays, the thing that worries me with him, he gets hurt a lot, man. He's got to stay healthy for a full season. That Utah is the favorite to win the conference, obviously. But I mean, I think Oklahoma State, third best value at plus 8. I think it's worth a little sprinkle. But head of second odds was Kansas State, who also I think is going to be good. I think they're going to be good, man. No one's talking about that quarterback. Avery Johnson is a problem, man. I'm telling you, he's telling you, and they got a good running back as well. So Kansas State has explosive offense. We'll see what they can do as well.
I worry about their defense. That's my biggest thing with Kansas State.
With any Big 12 team, that's what you worry about.
Yeah, of course.
Same with Oklahoma State. I know they're going to be a solid offense, but defensively, I don't know if I can trust them. So plus 800, I like it. I'm gonna take a shot at it. So moving on, man. We'll get to the Heisman odds now. So let's go over that. First, we got the favorite Dylan Gabriel plus 700. Next, we got Carson Beck plus 750. And this is where it starts to get into the deeper waters. We got Quinn Ewers plus 1,000, Will Howard plus 1,400, Nico I don't even know how to say
it. Good luck with that one, brother. I don't even know how to say his name.
It's something crazy. I am a Leva. I don't even know. He's plus 1,400. Tennessee quarterback, by the way. Jalen Milroe at plus 1,400. And then we got Jackson Dart, who is my sneaky dark horse favorite at plus 1,400. And then at plus 1,800, we got Garrett Nussmeier. So I don't really want to go past that because I thought where I wanted to go to. My sneaky dark horse is going to be Jackson Dart at plus 1,400. What do you think, BK?
Yeah, we're both on Dart. I mean, I'm huge on him. He's got some extreme weapons when you're talking wide receiver, tight end. They also got Juice Wells.
Juice Wells, yep.
Juice Wells from South Carolina. That's a huge pickup for them. I definitely think that they're going to throw the ball a ton, especially after losing Judkins. And for the people that are worried about their ability to be too predictable, just keep in mind their head coach is Lane Kiffin. He's one of the biggest offensive gurus in college football.
Right. See, initially, that's what I worried about was, are they going to be too easy to figure out? Like, is everyone just going to know they're throwing the ball every time? But like you just said, they have one of the best offensive minds in college football in Lane Kiffin. He's going to figure it out. He's going to work the running backs in. Don't worry. So I think Ole Miss is going to be scary this year.
Yeah.
With that, they have a great offensive line, great offense, good defense, great head coach. Yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to be a scary team this year. So plus 1,400 for Jackson Dart is definitely worth the sprinkle, a little half unit sprinkle. But ultimately, my favorite pick is going to be Quinn Ewers at plus 1,000. That being said, is because Texas, man, this year I think is going to be a really great team. Him leading the pack. He didn't have the best numbers last year, but I think this year it's going to be his year, man. Plus 1,000, I think Quinn Ewers is great odds right there. So that's my ultimately favorite pick, but him and Dart are my two Heisman picks this year so far.
And not only that, but what you were saying about Texas, I just wanted to go back to it for just a second. A lot of people don't realize he didn't really have the weapons. Last year, he made a lot of people look a lot better than what they were. Of course, A.D. Mitchell's good. We're not going to sit there and act like he's not. But now, I mean, they got Isaiah Bond. I mean, let's be real. Isaiah Bond is a burner. So having him on the outside is going to be extremely huge for them. I like what they return production-wise. I think they're going to be able to take a good run at the table of the SEC in their first year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be them. I mean, obviously everyone's saying Georgia, but Georgia's having a little sneaky little problems going on. Rod Thomas getting in trouble. Not
I mean,
good.
Trevor Etienne getting DUI. I mean, he's probably not going to be able to play week 1 versus Clemson. So
Off the field troubles for Georgia is
yeah.
not good. I mean, I'm still high on Georgia, but as far as conference winner, I'm not taking them. Just
See, for
the too obvious.
For me, the thing about Georgia that most people are more or less, they've come to accustom to thinking Georgia is going to be this powerhouse. In the end, Carson Beck is going to have to prove he is who everyone thinks he is. Those big games, when you're talking, in Tuscaloosa, when they play Texas, even first week versus Clemson, Clemson's defense is legit. I'm not trying to sit here and say we're going to beat Georgia by any stretch of the imagination. I think we will make it a good game, but I don't think we'll beat them. But Carson Beck is going to have to show who he is. A lot of the times last year, he was able to shield a lot of his incapabilities by having extremely good weapons, extremely good O-line, and then an extremely good defense.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll find out pretty quickly. In my opinion, I don't think Georgia's in the SEC title this game. This year. I personally have Ole Miss in Texas. That's who I like. I think both of those teams are primed for a good run. Ole Miss, who we've spoken on already. One thing I wanted to touch on is their transfer portal additions on the defense are huge. Getting the DN from Texas A&M. They have a lot of returning pieces in the DB side of things as well. So I'm confident in them. I'm not sold on Alabama. I'm not sold on Georgia. I'm not sold on
Alabama.
pretty much.
Let's talk about Alabama real quick. Because everybody knows the Patriots of college football. So let's talk quick. I don't really like Alabama this year, man. I mean, Milroe, obviously, he's a hell of a quarterback. But having a new coach, like I said, come into a new system, new coach, new offensive coordinator for Alabama as well. Their whole coaching staff is pretty much new. Man, they lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball too, man. A lot of changes on the offensive side, losing Bond at receiver. That's huge. I mean, yes, Alabama's going to be a good team. I think they'll be 10-2 this year is where I have them projected at. So 10-2 is 9-3 range is where I'm thinking for Bama this year. They got a tough schedule. Like I said, new coach, a lot of challenges, man. I think 10-2 is realistically where I see them this year. What you think, BK?
Yeah, I had them at 9-3, so I can agree with your point of view. I think they're going to turn more to, in a lot of ways, smash mouth style football, which is kind of different from what people are expecting due to who their head coach is now. Running that West Coast style of offense, but I think for sure that they're going to pound the rock with Haynes. So
he's got to live up to the Nick Saban name, man. That's not easy.
Got to. No one wants to follow the GOAT. I'll tell you that right now. No one wants to follow the GOAT.
Right. So that's just real quick about Bama. Let's talk about week 0 before we wrap up the show, y'all. We got Florida State versus Georgia Tech. That game is going to be in Ireland, the first game of the year, up in 22 days. Florida State is the 12.5-point favorite here. Kyle, what do you think?
First off, I don't know why they're playing in freaking Ireland. Like, why? Like, I have no clue.
Oh, it just seems like one of those that you're like, Florida State, Georgia Tech conference game in Ireland, first game? Something's. It kind of reminds me of the game last year with, who was it, Rutgers and Northwestern?
Yeah. They played so early.
Yeah, and they played the first conference game, and some weird stuff happened. And I think some weird stuff is going to happen in this game. With that being said, I lean the Georgia Tech side with the points in this game.
You go ahead. What, 12.5?
12.5. I'll take I'll buy it to 13. Give me 13. If I can get it to 14, I'll obviously take 14. But yeah, give me Georgia Tech with the points here. I just think it's too many. I think it's going to be a weird game here in Ireland. I think it's going to be nasty. I mean, depending on the weather. It was nasty last year or 2 years ago when Notre Dame played that game in Ireland. So it could be nasty out there. Yeah, give me Georgia Tech with the 12 points. Haynes King coming back at quarterback. I think he's a solid quarterback. They got their running back too as well. solid offense over there. I think they can score points. So they score
Who's
points.
who's also the little brother of the Alabama running back. Ironic enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Just learned something new. Okay. Nice.
But I definitely think that the 12.5 there is probably your best bet. I don't like that game. I think it's sketchy, but I mean, if you're going to go with your guns, you're going to go with your guns. The 12.5 is where it's at. I'm not about to sit there and put money on Georgia Tech.
So you like Florida State with the 12.5? You do?
Yes. Are you on the other side of it? You want to take Tech?
Georgia Tech with the 13. Yeah, give me the points.
All right.
I just think coming in, I think it's going to be a weird game. Like I said, his first game with Florida State. I mean, he could be a little, butterflies in the stomach, man. I don't know. I think Georgia Tech, with the experience they've had there with Haynes King, already been there, done that with them. I think they get it done and cover that spread. I don't know if they win the game. Obviously, they're
they ain't got to.
I'm not running to the window and bet 13 points with Florida State, man. That's just way too many, I think. So
I don't know. I definitely think more or less that they'll probably win by at least 2-3 scores, but to be determined. That's for sure.
Right. But if Florida State, I think it's one of these games. If Georgia Tech keeps it close and it's nasty.
The same way they did with Miami last year.
Right. They needed to be a low scoring game and make it nasty where I think they cover this. And that's what the kind of game that I'm seeing here. So that's why I'm going with Georgia Tech in this spot with the 13 points. Anything else you want to cover here, BK? I think that's all we got for the first podcast, man. Moving forward, we will be going over week 1 games, going over each conference coming up before the season, going over the bigger conferences and then the smaller conferences as well, giving y'all some insight and looks in what we think about there. But go ahead, BK.
Oh, yeah. The only other thing I wanted to add is make sure you go and take the time to check out other award winners other than the Heisman. Your Biletnikoff and Doak Walker. There's extreme value there. I mean, the leader for the Doak Walker is Ali at plus 350. The leader for the Biletnikoff is going to be Luther Burden at plus 350. Everybody after that, you're talking plus 900 for the Biletnikoff and plus 700 for the Doak Walker. So if you like somebody, you think they're going to have an extremely good year, I myself am probably going to sprinkle Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. I think they're going to pound the rock a lot. Their quarterback's pretty young. I think they're another group of 5 team or non-group of 5 team that will have some success as well. I will probably sprinkle him at plus 1,000. But Luther Burden at plus 350 for the Biletnikoff, you're talking the best wide receiver in college football for probably the last 2 years easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that one. I like Ollie Gordon as well. I mean, plus 350 for both of those. I feel like, dude.
I mean, at worst you lose a couple bones. At best you make some lovely money.
Sprinkle a little bit on the other ones that you just mentioned. But yeah, man, I like all those picks that you just mentioned. There's anything else you want to add? But I think we're good for the first podcast, man.
Yes, sir. It's been fun, brother. Can't wait to do it again.
Follow on our Instagrams. Mine's Rico's Locks, and then BK's BK_picks.
Yes, sir. Hit us with the follow.